What if I told you paradise is just a flight away and you don't even need a passport? Today on the Compass Conversations, we're diving into the magic of the U.S. Virgin Islands with Commissioner Joseph Boschulte. From the unique charm of St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, to yachting adventures, food festivals, and exciting new developments. This episode is packed with reasons why the USVI should be on every traveler's radar. Travel advisors, you'll want to hear how you can play a key role in driving tourism to this Caribbean gem. Let's get into it. Commissioner, hello.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you always.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining me here at Sea Trade, which of course is the biggest cruise event of the year. Now, I know your background. You once worked in the cruise segment of the government or for the U.S. Virgin Islands?
I ran the biggest port for the U.S. Virgin Islands for 5 years as president and CEO, and that was my first official introduction to the cruise business and sea trade. And I learned very early on that even before I took the job, one of the requirements they gave me, I remember when I met with the board, they were like, well, you have to attend sea trade. And I was like, I haven't started working yet. They're like, you have to attend sea trade. So worked it and I came in, and it was interesting to me just to see the sheer number of people that attend sea trade. Because many times when you live and you work in a place, even though St. Thomas was a big tourism mecca, we had cruise ships for as long as I can remember growing up in the islands. Sometimes it takes the trade show like this to see that cruise is bigger than the Caribbean or bigger than the U.S. It's global.
Yes.
And whenever you walk the floor, like we walked the floor before we came in here, and to see how the boots continue to become more extravagant.
Yes, exactly.
And the destinations continue to invest more. And destinations that I was telling someone when we had a meeting earlier there with one of the cruise lines, that destinations that 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you were like, there's no way they're even going to get into this business at a high level. And you walk by their booths and you're like, well, what, they got a big booth? So that tells you that one, they're investing in it. Two, it continues to reiterate, for me in my role today as the head of tourism for the USVI, that tourism is very important to the Caribbean. And then thirdly, and probably most importantly, it goes to show in our space that if you're not in the right places, you will be forgotten from the place.
Yes.
And that's important for us to remember. If you're not in the right place, you will be forgotten from the place in a whole in our business. So it's not surprising to me as we walk around the floor that all our major competitors are all represented.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's especially for this particular trip, the cruise business.
And cruising is such an important part of the USVI. I mean, you go into St. Thomas and you see every major cruise line there, right? Like, what percentage of your business is cruising versus people that are flying in for a land vacation?
Yeah, right now it's a little above 2 to 1 in terms of passenger arrivals into the territory from cruise, which is the most, and then overnight guests is second. But we had a record year last year in the U.S. Virgin Islands for overnight travelers coming in. Cruise is continuing to rebound very strong from COVID. You know, I told people that when I took the tourism job, when Governor Bryan offered me the job, if I knew back then what I knew during COVID, that we would have no ships for 18 months, I'd have been like, there's no way I want to be a tourism commissioner for that.
Exactly.
But you know, it proved out to be a blessing for the destination because there was a heavy focus on our overnight product. We opened really early. We had a superb health team that set protocols for the government and for travelers and for the airlines. And we did really, really well in terms of providing a place of solace for people that were going through tough times. You would think you were down there when you came in there.
Yes, we came down, we filmed, and you were featured on the television show, and we still film, you know, we still broadcast that episode, so yeah.
Yeah, so we like to tell people that for a territory with 90,000 people, that gets almost 3 million visitors, right? That we punch way above our weight class, right? We definitely do.
Exactly. Now let's talk about this America's Caribbean Paradise. I think that's what I saw on you guys'
Well,
website.
we used to call, way back in the day, it used to be America's Paradise. And now we've shifted a little bit and massaged it a little bit to call us America's Caribbean.
All right, all right.
And, you know, we stand strong on that in terms of, especially now when we have this level of uncertainty in U.S. politics in terms of the tariffs and the rules and the changes, which is now filtering over into global uncertainty in terms of the tariffs and the impacts, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks, just this week alone, right?
Yes,
the market's up and down, questions in our business, and I'm talking tourism and travel, what the impacts are going to be in terms of travel into the U.S. But for us in the territory, we're more concerned about travel from the U.S. out.
Right.
And of course, the factors that are involved in it. One is clearly the sentiment of U.S. globally. And then clearly the other one that is a concern is the economy,
Right.
and inflation, and people's belief of how wealthy they are, right? And I think you look at it now, lots of retirement plans have gone down.
Right.
And even I had this conversation with somebody yesterday. I said, most people can't and don't touch their retirement funds until of age. But that doesn't mean you're not aware of what's going on. So when you see a big spike that turns red,
Right.
you automatically don't feel as wealthy as you were, right?
Yeah.
Even though the understanding is that over the course of time, it should level off, and you shouldn't really be moving on up and down either way.
Right.
But it is a concern, right?
Yeah,
because
definitely.
we've
It
had a
causes
great
people to
run.
panic.
Yeah, we had a great run.
Yeah.
Right? The economy's been doing well. The
Yeah.
stock market's been doing well. So whether it's a correction or people pulling equity out, it is a concern. And I think for us, on the travel market side, there's always the concern of, because we are leisure guests destination.
Yes.
So we depend on people feeling comfortable in traveling. We like the fact that people want to travel. I think one of the big tests from COVID to post-COVID to even the new cycle is people began to accept vacations in the U.S. market as a must.
Yes, that's right.
Because
so
a long
people
time
are
it
going to
was-
travel. I
and
don't
that's
care
what
if
we
it's a
hope.
bad economy. They are going to travel, right?
And that's what we hope, that they
Yes.
continue to say, look, whatever it is, now it may not be 3 trips, or it may not be 4 trips, but they're going to at least be 1 or 2 trips.
Exactly,
And they're going to be
exactly.
trips out. So we're hopeful. I think we looked at our numbers through the end of the year in the U.S. Virgin
Yes.
Islands, so we're looking strong.
And you will continue to be strong.
Thank you, I appreciate
no doubt about that.
I like to hear that.
Yeah. So let's talk to our travel advisors a little bit about the different islands that make up the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Well, we have 3 main islands, right? St. Thomas, and that's our probably most cosmopolitan island, and that's the capital. We have St. John, which is our small jewel that
Yes, it is
has
truly
the
a
number 1
jewel,
beach in the world in
right?
Trunk Bay.
Yes.
But it also is unique in the sense that over 60% of the island is owned by the Federal National Park. So that allows for not much building around the island because much of the island is protected.
Right.
And it's a little piece of nature in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And then our biggest island is St. Croix, which is, much in the sense of our island where there's lots of adventure. Above the ground, hiking, biking, and below the ground. Some of the best diving in the Caribbean can be found on St. Croix or off the coast of St. Croix. So very different experiences. We always like to try to get people to do the trifecta, which is hit all 3 islands in a week. But if you can't do that, then we'd like you to come back. So we've done really, really well in terms of trying to share with the world what the 3 islands have to offer. But as importantly in that, we've invested heavily in our tourism, economic analysis profiling. So we can pick travelers that want an adventure vacation over somebody that wants a beach vacation, or over somebody that wants to have a mix of all. They want to be able to hang out in the evenings. They want to be able to have great food. They want to be able to go to the beach. And we try to profile to say, okay, well, if you're coming in from Colorado
Right.
and you believe in
stay longer.
diving and you want to come in and you outdoor life,
Yeah.
St. Croix is where you want to be.
Yeah.
Lay back. But if you're somebody that's coming in from Brooklyn and you're like, look, I want to eat dinner at 9:30. I want to hang out afterwards. Then St. Thomas is for you, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to go to a place where 9:30 you're going out to dinner, like where the kitchen closes at 9.
Right,
They
exactly.
take you somewhere else for that, right?
Exactly.
And then, of course, we have, St. John, which is for people who just said, I have a few more disposable dollars than most, and I
Yeah.
want to go someplace where I could
Yes.
lounge and have nice dinners and sit on the
Yes.
beach all day.
Yeah.
And those are the things that we like to do. And of
Yeah.
course, for us, because I know you're an old cruise person,
Yes,
you've been in the
that's-
business.
that's it.
What is really nice is, you get a chance on a cruise ship to experience either St. Thomas and St. John if you come into St. Thomas, or go to St. Croix and experience
Right.
St. Croix, mix and mingle for 5 or 6 hours and say,
Right.
okay,
It gives you the
that's what-
sampling.
and
You
that's
know
what I
which
think-
one you want to come back to, right?
Exactly. So that's
Definitely.
it.
Now, what about in terms of where to stay these days? Now, when I came over and we filmed, we were in St. John, we stayed at Gallows Point. I fell in love with Gallows
Yeah,
Point.
Gallows Point is my little spot that I stay when
Yeah.
I go up to St. John's celebration.
Yeah.
Because it's walking distance to Cruise Bay. It has a lot of the amenities that if you are a hybrid, I call it a hybrid, right? So you like the amenities of a hotel, but you like the freedom of a sharing economy room, right?
Yes,
So they have the
yes.
kitchen, you make your own coffee, you got your own
Exactly.
stuff, but at the same time, you want to order room service, you could get that too.
And still do it. Yeah.
So that's it. So Gallows is really well. We have a nice Western property, and some of the best villas in the Caribbean are in St. John. So if you want to stay the villa life, that's there.
Yes.
Of course, on St. Thomas, a little over a year ago, the Westin Frenchman's Reef reopened, added almost 500 rooms back to our portfolio. It got
Okay.
damaged in the hurricanes of 2017. That's doing really, really well for us. We actually have our first hotel that we have open in many, many years on St. Thomas, which is a Hampton by Hilton.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was a newly
Awesome.
permitted hotel, 125
Yeah.
business hotel, and it's going to be set up on a cruise ship dock.
Yeah.
in
Little
Haven
known fact, when I worked for Hilton, I launched the Hampton by Hilton brand internationally. I was on the team that added by Hilton to the name for all of the brands, just
So
to
you
give it
get a
that
royalty out of this
recognition.
St. Thomas deal?
No, I wish I was. I should have.
you gotta work that in
I
there.
should have talked to Hilton sooner.
But it's interesting that you say that now, because I
Yeah.
was wondering, because everywhere, and they've been very consistent, so whoever their marketing, branding people
Yeah.
are, every time the Hilton people speak of that hotel, they always say Hampton by Hilton.
By
Hampton
Hilton. By Hilton. Yeah, because when we did that, it was about that name recognition, that world name recognition, right?
Right.
As they expanded the brand globally. So
So
that
there
was
you
the
go.
thought
A little
behind that.
tidbit.
There
Yeah.
you go. Exactly. Now, you guys are heavy into sports tourism. I have been seeing you at some major events. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, one of the things we try to do in our space as a destination that has been in tourism for a little bit is we always try to stay fresh. We always try to figure out ways to reach and keep our brand awareness at the highest levels. And sometimes that takes the need for bold steps. And one of the things that we did when we sat with our team was, what can we do to raise our profile and at the same time protect our airlift, which is huge for us, being an island,
Right.
a set of islands in the Caribbean. And at the same time, we wanted to make sure that we had the ability to have big impacts. So we've done now 4 sports partnership deals with
Okay.
major franchises in the U.S. So we did a first deal with the Boston Red Sox, and the reason behind that, we wanted to target the Boston, New England area. We always like Northeast because of the ease commute
Right.
to the Caribbean. 2, in Boston, it gets cold. So during the heavy season, we want people to say, I need to get away from the cold.
Right.
And then thirdly, we wanted to make sure that we had a potential to reach a group of people that were committed to a team. So whether that's you watch the games, whether you listen to the games, or you go to the games when you want, we found that in the Red Sox,
Yeah.
iconic stadium. And lo and behold, we saw the data started coming in, the traction, brand awareness in that area, in the
Yes.
Boston, New England area started to go up. And then we said, well, we have some direct flights that fly out of O'Hare that we need support with too. So
Yeah.
we said, we had a conversation with the Cubs. Wrigley Field, big market, gets cold in
Right.
Chicago. We had 2 flights, 2 airlines flying from out here. We said, we need to make sure that we keep those flights and then hopefully grow them. We did a deal with the Cubs, went really, really well. And we defined really, really well, meaning the lift was strong.
Right.
And the volume of capacity of people flying on the planes was high. But also, they started to add additional flights, which meant additional seats. So that means
Right.
demand is high enough to say, oh, we need to get more flights going into St. Thomas.
There you go. All right.
And that happened. And then we did our 3rd deal right after that, which was an NFL deal in our biggest market, which was the New York tri-state market of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. That deal did really, really well because we
And
had
that
flights.
is
The New York
with the
Jets.
New York Jets, yeah.
Big deal. And it was strong, again, strong franchise, big market. We had flights out of Newark, flights out of JFK. And that did really, really well. So what we found is when we go back and we do our comp analysis on ROI, we could have spent X dollars here, we could spend X dollars in this magazine, and we could spend X dollars on this TV show. It's very difficult to beat our ROI in our sports deals. Really, really strong.
Yeah.
And we support them with activations on site where we bring part of our culture to this stadium and
Right.
Stadiums where they get a chance to see our dancers and our culture and drink some of our wonderful libations.
So bringing the USVI to
To
them.
them, and then they turn around and say, oh, I got to go back and see
Turning
that.
the excitement and inspiring them
And
to
that's
visit.
what we try to do. And I think, and then we subsequently did a deal with the Mets, the New York Mets, big market. So I think what we've shown with our team is that it's okay to dream big, swing big,
Yeah.
because the returns, if done right and executed right, and there's a commitment, the returns can be big, and we see that for the territory.
All right. Now, I'm going to go way back, and I might even tell my age on this one, but you guys used to do something very nice for travel advisors once upon a time. During the month of August, travel advisors could come and stay for 3 nights on any of the islands and experience USVI. Is there anything, and I might be putting you on the spot, and I'm just wondering, do you guys still do anything like that today?
Well, not now, but we might start. But this might be our Bajeta moment, right?
Yes,
So we might
yes.
start to do something like that. What we do fam trips, which which is like a derivative of that.
Yes.
I think one of the things that we do, because I like the idea, right? August is generally our slowest month out of the year.
Yeah.
And it's the slowest month out of the year because that is when peak hurricane season begins. So, one, everybody, is tense.
Right.
Tense, more tense than normal. But 2, the airlines cut back flights, and hotels generally try to gear up. But we actually have been doing that over the last couple of years with the fam trips. So we started to bring them in
Right.
in August and September when
Yeah.
hotels need a little propping up, airlines
Right.
need a little bit of, support for the flights that fly in during the time, and we've seen it. I like the idea of the travel advisors coming in. I don't know if we could do 3 nights or whether we could give it to hotels, but I do like the ability for people in the travel industry, if they want to, learn more about the territory. And there's nothing better to learn about the territory than actually being there.
Right.
'Cause
Come and experience it.
Well, and recent experience, because one of the
Yeah,
things we talk
that's
about
true.
with our travel advisors is, you get a better picture if they've actually been there, right? So one of the things we do when we talk to our people is, look, when was the last time you were in St. Croix?
Right.
What you mean? I've been to St. Croix a lot.
Yeah.
Well, when was the last time you were there?
1985.
Well, I was there. But it was great. I was like,
Right,
that's better than it was
yeah,
not better.
yeah.
But we want to hear you say things
Right.
about, because, they're generally a series of questions that come up. What is there to do? Where should I eat?
Right.
What's the best time to go? Where should I stay? And it's always better, I found, when they could say, well, I was just down there 2.5 months ago. I had a great breakfast here. I had a great lunch here. The people were great here.
Right.
Because it gives you a sense of, well, I feel like I know the destination
Right.
more than if I don't. Right. So
Exactly.
like even when I
Exactly.
come to Sea Trade and Miami Beach, the first point of reference is always the better places I ate. Right. That's a point of reference.
Right.
Then I move. If I don't really feel like that, then I go and ask questions around the hotel.
Right.
Where should I go eat? What should I do? To get your point of references. And of course, we have the phones now that could tell us what we should do.
Exactly. And they can always watch Traveling with Denella.
And we can watch Traveling with Denella. Yes.
On St. Croix, St. John, actually telling the story of where to go, what to do, where to stay, all of that.
So I'm going to put you on the spot.
There
When was
you
the
go.
last time you were in the VI? 1985?
No. Year and a half ago, maybe.
Oh, okay, well, that's
Think about a
good.
year and a half ago. Yes.
We got to get you back down.
Yes, exactly.
Because we've had new restaurants open. We've had new excursion activities. I know you like to get out there.
I do. I get in the
and-
water. I
and
do
get
it
in the
all. I
water.
love the animals. I love it all.
I see it.
Yeah.
We got some beer drinking pigs down there.
Yes. I actually met them.
Oh,
yes,
there
they
you
were in
go.
the show. Hey, they're superstars.
I know.
Yeah.
So we got to get you back down there again. But I think that
Exactly.
there is always, it's always refreshing when we get an opportunity to actually show the territory to people when they're on the ground. And you get we like doing our show with you, Denella, because you actually document it, right? So it's one thing if I
Yes.
say, hey man, I had a great time in St. John, but I don't have any proof.
Yeah.
And we find that even more when we start to do analysis on our demographics. So if you have any kind of chance with millennials or Gen Z, you better have good internet.
Yes.
You better have the ability to have their ability to post
Yes.
and have sites that they can take these memories, experiences from. And if you miss on any of those three,
Right.
you lose out on that quickly.
Yes.
And as a quick aside, but we do a lot of hotel development type pitches, and it's interesting when you talk about those two demographics. The number one thing they look for is safety. The number two thing they look for is connectivity and speed of internet.
Okay.
So when you listen to that, and then the third one is, and this surprised me a little bit, was the size of the TV in the room.
I can see that.
But they say,
Yeah.
this is what I learned, because I talked to the people, and they say that the demographic, they stream a lot. And they want to be able to have a big TV
Yes.
when they stream in the rooms.
Exactly.
But it's interesting because part of our analysis when we do marketing for the destination is, when I speak publicly, I always tell people, if your thought process is, I'm going to do the same marketing pitch to the grandparents as the grandkids, the only way that works that I've seen, is that the grandparents are paying for everybody to go. Then people are like, all right, well, we can work with it.
Yeah.
But if the grandkids have a say, right, and they do, then you got to flip the marketing and say, hey, these are the things that the grandkids like, and if they want it, they're going to go to the grandparents and say, can we go here?
Right.
And they're going to be like, yes.
Okay.
And the piece that I left out in the middle are the parents, which generally used to have a lot of to say. What we found is that parents try to not be on that trip, right? So it used to be multi-generational trip. Now it's just the grandparents and the
And the
grandkids.
kid- yeah.
And the parents go off and do whatever they do.
Nice.
So that's a piece of advice for those people out there
Okay.
who are trying to get some tourism tips.
Okay. Parents get a break.
Parents get a
Send
break.
them off for their grandparents. Let
you
them
go.
pay for it too.
There you go.
That'll work. Well, in our final wrap up, if you had to give me the top 3 reasons travel advisors should inspire their clients to book USVI, what are those reasons why?
A great
They
question.
need to get to booking.
Get to booking. The first one is satisfaction will be high. We don't over advertise. We are very, very committed to having the experience you want meet the experience you get. The second reason is the value is there. You get what you pay for, hands down. And then the third reason is our people. We are people that understand tourism, respect tourism, and most importantly, understand how tourism makes our lives better. And we treat people accordingly.
All right. And I'm going to add a fourth. If you're a U.S. citizen, you don't need a passport.
Well, that's
right?
that is a key,
Yeah.
and I think we are especially going to test that philosophy as we move into this new era
that's
in
true,
America.
right? That's
so
true.
no passport
Yes.
necessary to come to the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yes.
And I'm not plug out. And please visit USVI.com for all the information on USVI.
Absolutely. And you can also watch our shows on USVI on VAX. You'll find it streaming there as well. So take a look at the shows and then share them with your clients, because that's going to make it very, very easy for you to close that sale to the USVI. Commissioner, it's always wonderful. Wasn't that an amazing conversation with Commissioner Boschulte? From passport-free perks to some of the best beaches in the world and unforgettable island experiences, the U.S. Virgin Islands are calling. Travel advisors, this is your moment to lean in and help your clients discover the magic of the USVI. If you got value from this episode, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to share it with your fellow travel pros and clients. Until next time, keep your compass pointed toward discovery.